the Darwin Innovation Hub, creating pathways to the future.
Thank you everyone for joining us for the third webinar of the week. Today we are talking all about your business and your cash flow. COVID-19 is causing major disruption around the world and causing businesses to experience major falls in demand for their products and services, as well as disruptions in supply chains, and due to government distancing measures, also in labour shortages. It's really tough times and a lot of businesses are facing dramatic threats within their cash flows. And this is a curve that we really don't want to see flatten or decline. Whilst there is a lot of federal and state support for businesses right now, in fact, as of this morning, almost 500,000 have registered for the federal government's new wage subsidy scheme. Today, joining the conversation is Jeff Thomas, who many of you will know as one of the Darwin Innovation Hub's experts in residence. Jeff also sits on many boards and investment committees and is a leader in the world of private equity and venture capital. Before Jeff introduces himself, please familiarise yourself with the Zoom channel. You are able to ask a question at any time through the Q&A tab or the chat box, and we will answer live. For those that we can't answer today, we will respond offline. So welcome, Jeff. Tell us a bit about yourself and what you see happening in the business world today.
Okay, thank you very much, Emma. I'll just go to my desktop as sharing. So my background is I've run private investment funds for many years. So probably around 20 years of running various investment funds. And I'm right now on the investment committee of the Paspalatus Fund, which is up there in Darwin. And I've been a member of the AICD for about 20 years. So I've kind of seen bad times before, and I would say, unfortunately, this is going to be the worst year for business I've seen in my lifetime. And as you know, Emma, that's a pretty long lifetime so far. So basically, right now, I really want to make the point that, and now my internet connection's gone unstable. I really want to make the point that cash is king. The absolute key thing that you need to do right now is to get cash in the door and conserve cash. Anything else is not as important right now. So really concentrate on cash flow, and I'm going to talk more about that during the session today. And also, we're going to run a Q&A after my pretty short presentation and just talk through some of the issues of what people should do. The other point to note is that there is a lot of support being offered by the federal government and the state governments as well. So it's very important that you go through all those and see what's on offer. Please talk to your accountant. If you belong to a chamber of commerce, talk to them as well. Everyone is going out of their way to provide a lot of support for business at the moment. So use those resources as far as you can. And the other thing is, you know, this will come to an end and we'll be out the other side at some point. And there's probably going to be a whole bunch of new sets of incentives and projects that are being formed. If you go back to the Depression in the 1930s and what happened after that, effectively the US dragged itself out of recession and out of depression by creating major new projects. So that's when they built big dams, they built the highway system in the US. So expect that at the other end of this process, there's going to be a lot of government spending on nation building and big projects. So just think about what that might look like for you in the long term. But right now, it's about survival. So what I want to talk to you about is the accounts, is your set of accounts. These are probably things that your accountant sends to you every year. You flip through to find out how much tax you're due to be paid, whether you get a refund or not, you sign off, and you don't worry about these items anymore. But right now, it's important that you understand what your assets are and how to convert those assets into cash. So just on this chart, we've got here what looks like, or what should like your set of accounts. So just starting at the top left, cash is cash. It's literally the cash you got in the bank. And the next one is inventory and stock. So particularly if you're a business that makes things, then you may well have some stock. You may well have some stock lying around that's slow moving stock, and you'd have materials on hand. Look through everything you got and see if it can be sold or used as part of something that's being sold to a customer. If you've got stock lying around that you're probably never going to use, sell it. Put it on eBay, put it on Gumtree. Find a way to convert the assets that you have into cash. The other thing is, one of the items that never appears on your accounts but is really there is the work in progress. That's the work that you've been doing on a job, but you are yet to bill. So for example, with me, I send a bill into the DIH every month. And really what you should do now is look to bill faster, because that work you've done during the month is effectively some stock sitting there that you've built up of hours that you can sell off. And you really should put the bill in as fast as you can. So while you might have billed, say, 15 days after the end of month, look to see if you can bill your clients every week or every 2 weeks. By getting a bill into their system, you're more likely to be paid faster. Next item is receivables. That's money where you've sent out an invoice and you're yet to get the cash in. And these are often the things that we're most worried about because we're afraid of someone else going broke and not paying us. So think about ways to get that money in faster. One way is to offer a discount for early payment. So ring up and talk to your customer and make sure that you are on the list to be paid by a certain date. And when you've determined that you are on the list to be paid by a certain date, ask if you can offer them a discount to be paid earlier. You know, often these discounts are probably 1 or 2%, but maybe look in this climate of offering, say, 5% discount if you get paid today or tomorrow. And just try to pull that cash forwards as fast as you can. The next items on your accounts are your plant and equipment, your buildings, your fixtures and fittings. That's in the non-current assets. And what that means by non-current means you can't convert them into cash. So they're the things you're kind of stuck with. But one thing I would emphasize is now is probably not the time to increase those things. So if you don't have a lot of cash in your business, don't go out and buy some new equipment. Don't go out and buy a new building, and don't make some changes to your don't spend money to say make an improvement to your premises. Don't go out and buy new desks. Whatever you can do, conserve your cash. So they're your assets. And then the other side of your balance sheet is your liabilities, the things that you owe people. And we're kind of doing everything in reverse here. So with the bills we've received with the amount that we're owed, look to see if you can pay those bills slower. Ring up your customers, particularly if they're a large organization, and ask whether it's possible to delay the payment at all. Point out that you will pay them, guarantee that you'll pay them, but just that you'll do it later, not sooner. The next item is something you probably haven't seen on your books, which is a thing called contract receipts in advance, which is where you get payments in advance from people. Now, often in business, we can't get hold of payments in advance. People want to only pay you once they've received what you've delivered to them. But, you know, these are strange times. And if you're dealing with a large business or the state government or someone like that, ask if you can bill ahead of completing the work. Ask if you can bill in advance. The more you can bill in advance, the faster you're going to get the cash in the door. The other thing that often doesn't appear on small firms' accounts is the accrued liabilities. So what I mean by that are bills that we're yet to receive. So, for example, yesterday for me, I got a bill for the power. Now, I'd forgotten today was the day I was going to get the bill for the power. But they're the bills that you haven't got yet. And, you know, in the normal course of business, they're not an issue. But in times of tight cash flow, they can surprise you. So go through your historic accounts over the last 12 months and work out what bills you're going to get in so there are no surprises for you in your cash flow. And then the other item, which is a liability, is loan payments. If you owe money to the bank, in normal circumstances, they expect you to pay you back, but for you to pay them back, sorry. But right now, the banks are very keen to talk to you and will be very willing to allow deferral of payment. And your other liabilities are loans more than 12 months away, which is long-term loans, maybe equipment finance or something like that. They're obviously loans you're going to have to pay down the track anyway. But talk to them, talk to the bank about what's going to occur in the coming 12 months, particularly the coming 6 months, and whether you can defer payments. If you can defer the cash being paid out the door to the bank, you have it there inside your firm to do something with. The next thing I want to talk about is the cash conversion cycle. So this is something that many of you probably haven't thought about, or you've thought about it briefly. So effectively, there's three expenses that we have. We have money held up in stock and parts and materials that we're going to use to make things for our customers. We've got the time taken to receive the cash in, and we've got the time taken to pay people. And effectively, the cash conversion cycle is the number of days of inventory plus the days of receivables less the days of payables. And you'll ask me, what do I mean by days of payables? Let's say you might typically pay on 30 days. So your payable days is a 30 days term. You might have receivables coming in, and people might not pay you for 2 months. So the time taken for that is 60 days. And then there's inventory days. And inventory days is, let's say you've got $50,000 worth of goods that you're keeping in a store out the back, and in any 1 year you might sell $100,000 worth of that stock and equipment. Effectively, if you've got $50,000 tied up in stock at any one time, and you use about $100,000 worth of stock a year, your days of inventory are 180 days. Effectively, you're holding 6 months worth of stock. That's an area where you could probably really reduce the amount of stock that you hold. Buy everything in future just in time. Only when the customer wants to buy something from you do you buy the stock. You may have to tell the customer you can't deliver as fast as you'd like, but that's going to be a whole lot better than going broke, holding stock just in case a customer turns up. The other thing I want to talk about is the range of income support. At the moment, the state and federal governments are offering a lot of support for you to keep people employed. So go through these schemes. There's a lot of different schemes that are being added to, it seems like every day. But look at all these schemes of what can be done. So I'm not going to go through each one of these. On the right are the ones from the feds, and typically on the left are the ones from the feds, and on the right the ones from the state. So the key things from the federal government is the job keeper one, which provides money to the employer if they're employing staff and their income has reduced on where it was last year. That's the really big scheme that's available. The other one up the top is boosting cash flow. It's the first scheme that was announced, and effectively, my understanding is the government will hand back any PAYG you spend for a 4-month period from March through to June. The other advantage is that there is a minimum. There's a min of $10,000 for your BAS in this April quarter, and there's another $10,000 for your BAS for the June quarter. So there's going to be money flowing back into you as a business as a result of doing your BAS each quarter. Again, you need to read the details about all these or talk to your accountant. Some of the other schemes on the left there are deferral or loan repayments, which we've spoken about. Go and talk to your bank. And also there's an ability to borrow money from the bank for working capital. So if you're a small business and you're under stress, you can go to the bank and borrow some more money, unsecured, over 3 years. And there's no repayments for the first 6 months of that. So really look at all those schemes that might support you. On the right are the schemes for the Northern Territory. And there's a few there, like a home improvement scheme, a business improvement scheme, a survival fund if you're a restaurant or retail business has been forced to shut. So there's a range of schemes there that may or may not help you. Some of those things are business improvement and home improvement schemes are basically a way for people to hire tradies. Now, you might not be in a position to hire a tradie to do work for you, but you might be one, and it may be an excellent idea to talk to your customers and say, hey, right now, you might spend 20K with me, but you get 10K back from the NTG. And the last thing down the bottom right is some income support. So if you become unemployed and if you run your own business, if you run your own firm, you might be able to make yourself unemployed. Then you can go to Centrelink and seek income support, which might be a really useful source of cash for you in these tough times. And the last resort is probably to access 10,000 of your own super savings that you've created over the years. So if you need money to eat and to survive, then that should be a last resort, but that last resort is there. So they're just a range of the programs that are available, and maybe Emma, we can do a little bit of Q&A.
Yeah, sure, Jeff. So I guess what most of the attendees would be interested in is what are the immediate things that they can do. There are some businesses obviously that are a product or goods type of business, and then there are some that are consultants and more service based. So what can either of those two do in the immediate right now to at least stay a little bit on the positive side?
Look, I think that let's kind of imagine you're a small business, maybe a tradie or a small retail business. Perhaps you might have some stock. Look to sell that stock. I think cash is the key. So anything you can do to sell the stock. Let's sort of say you ran a stall somewhere, Thursday nights or something like that. You've got a whole bunch of stock in your shed that you normally go out and you try to sell. Right now, you can't sell that. Just find a way, if you can, to sell it online. Try to sell it on eBay or Gumtree. And think about other ways to sell your stock. Think about whether you offer a home delivery service. So if you're sitting around at home and you can't do anything at the moment, then it's not a lot of work for you to offer a service that you deliver goods to people's homes, because you can drive around. You're perfectly free to drive around and deliver stuff to their door. So offer things that might help people buy your goods. I've seen a lot of restaurants around my area offer free home delivery.
Are you there? I think we've lost Jeff for a minute there. Okay, whilst we wait for Jeff to come back in, Jeff's right. So there's a lot of different ways in which we can sell our goods. A lot of restaurants are doing home deliveries at the moment.
Hi Emma.
Hi Jeff, you're back. Started to take over, but you can continue.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry about that. My internet's not as good as it should be. Yeah, so yeah, I'd certainly offer home deliveries, things like that. And the other thing is stock lying around, sell it off for whatever you can on Gumtree or eBay or whatever.
And what about the more service type businesses, the consultants?
Yeah, so I'm a consultant, so I'm feeling the pain that everyone else is feeling. The key thing I'd say is, really review your staff. If you've got staff, unfortunately, you may have to make some tough decisions. So the first thing is probably, if you have enough work on, ask them to all take leave. Tell them they all have to take all their leave owing to them. And then if you do have to retrench staff, make sure they work out their period. So often, typically, if you have to retrench staff, you often say, well, we don't need you, you're out the door, here's a month's pay, just leave. I think these are unusual times, and it's perfectly reasonable, and I believe you're allowed to ask them to work out their no notice and to do something. So if you've kind of got one more big job and then there's no other jobs going to come down the track, then it's perfectly reasonable to ask them to be stood down, to be retrenched, and to work out their period, and then they have no work. And at the end of the day, they're hard decisions to make, really hard decisions. I've had to do that the last 2 weeks, and it's obviously a lot harder being retrenched than doing the retrenching. But at the end of the day, if you can't afford the people, then there's there is not much choice you can make. Having said that, there's an awful lot of incentives to retain staff. So if there's a way to use the PAYG concessions, if there's a way to use JobKeeper to retain your staff, even if they're on a reduced wage or something like that, then I would have a pretty frank discussion with them about how we can all work together to achieve a good outcome. I've had discussion. I've got staff here in Adelaide, and we've had discussion, but he isn't paid that much. He's a young guy, and effectively I've said to him, look, we're going to rely on JobKeeper or real work to keep you on in six months. So have those discussions with your staff, because otherwise, if you don't, they don't know what's going on and have to fear the worst. So, for example, you might be in a position to say, hey, we've got enough work to go on with. I am going to keep you. That's a fantastic thing for someone to receive as news. Or alternatively, look, we are going to have to allow you to leave in 2 months' time, or let's create a structure where you can be paid. The other thing I would say for both types of firms is do a line-by-line review of where you spend cash every month. Just look at everything you spend cash on and work out whether it's essential or not. People often get a bit of creep in here and they spend cash on this or that every month as a bill, and it's only $100 here and $100 there. Now is the time to go through those accounts and work out what you don't need. Do you need someone to mow the lawns at the front of your building, or can you do it yourself? And maybe now's the time to start to remove some of those costs from your business. Anything that isn't essential to providing a service to a paying customer should be cut right now.
Is now a good time, do you think, for businesses to start those renovations during the downtime when they're not having clients and customers coming in, or invest in any capital expenditure?
Probably the answer is no, or maybe yes. So I would say
Very clear.
Very clear, and it's pretty clear which side of the fence you land on. If you're someone with substantial assets and cash, and you might own 4 or 5 properties around Darwin, you have tenants in place, you've spoken to those tenants, they're continuing to pay their bills, they fully expect to keep paying their bills. Now would be a really good time to use those incentives that are on offer to improve your site, to do those upgrades and things like that. There'll be a lot of people around keen to do work, and there'll be a lot of things that can be done, and there's an awful lot of incentives around doing so. There's accelerated depreciation in the tax rules at the moment. So it's a great time to do things if you have the money.
Yeah.
If you don't have the money, do not spend anything that's not essential. And I'm presuming most people listening in on this today don't have piles of cash lying around in their back shed waiting to be deployed. So there are a lot of incentives to spend $10,000. The government will give you $10,000. That's aimed at trying to pull the cash out of people like the first people I mentioned who might have a lot of stuff around, who want to do things, and now's a great time to do it, to pull cash out of people's bank balances into the community. But if you don't have piles of cash in your bank balance, don't spend a cent. I know there's incentives to do stuff. It seems like a good time. Maybe if you've got time and you can do this sort of stuff yourself, now might be a great time to do it because your work is effectively free anyway. So you might decide to go down, buy some paint, repaint the office, that sort of thing. That might be a great thing to do during this time. But hiring people in and spending your cash on third parties, if you don't have a lot of money, no, don't do it.
So a lot of small businesses and large ones and the like, they do rely on the invoices, the monthly invoices coming in. How can they now best manage the fact that they're going to be really slowly paid or perhaps not even paid at all?
I'd certainly ring up. Now's the time with everyone, whether it's your bank, whether it's people that owe you cash, whether you owe their money, call them up and talk to them. People are very uncertain about what's going to happen. If you don't talk to them, they will think the worst. So I would call the people who you have invoices out with and just ask them when you're going to be paid. Just confirming that you'll be paying me on the 15th as usual. The guys who squeak, the guys who are going to be on the phone every day to accounts payable are the people who get paid first. So don't be annoying, but be firm. You know, if we ring up and just confirm they're going to pay you on the 15th, if they don't pay on the 15th, then call them and ask when you're going to go be paid. And again, maybe offer, if you think their payment is uncertain, offer a discount for cash. If they haven't paid till the 17th or 18th, then call them up and say, look, I'm offering a special deal. If you pay today, I'll offer 5% off. Now that will encourage people to pay if they can save cash, if they intend to pay. The other thing is, if people aren't paying you, put them on stop. You know, there is no benefit to you in doing more work for someone who's not going to pay you. So just be polite about it, but until you pay this current invoice, I can't do more work for you.
Yeah, and I guess that's important on the flip side as well, the communication, because whilst we are waiting on invoices to come in, we also have a lot of invoices and bills that we need to pay as well.
Yep, and there's nothing wrong with ringing up the people who you owe money to and saying, look, I am going to pay you. You might say I'll pay you on the end of the month, not the start of the month, but I am going to pay you. If you're going to pay one on time because you can, let them know. Just call them up and say, hey, I'm just letting you know that you will be paid on the 15th in accordance with our standard practice. That builds a lot of strength in the long term relationship. Yep. That in tough times you continue to pay them as they are obliged to be paid, and you can use that down the track where we supported you through your bad times. You need to support us through these times, or we want a superior deal from you going forwards because we have supported you through those tough times. So I would say communication. The other thing I would say is with the banks, they are expecting your call. They've been given under no uncertain terms that they need to be responsive to this crisis, and they are. All the banks have up on their websites every time you log in. There's a note. Feel free to call us. They're expecting to have to wear some pain here. And effectively the Reserve Bank is telling them to wear some pain here. So talk to your bank. If you can defer your loan payments by 6 months, which will help your cash flow position, do so.
Yeah.
Ring up the ATO. Tell them that you're having trouble paying and you want to defer. They are expecting your call. Improve your cash position as far as you can. This will end. We will get out the other side. And a lot of people aren't spending much cash now. So when this comes to an end, they'll start to spend again. So just the idea is to survive, and do whatever you can to get through this period.
Yeah. Sort of more on a less negative note, what pivots do you suggest would be positive or fortuitous for business during this time?
Yeah, I actually think it's a good time for people in Darwin and the NT. The reason is that, typically with business, we would say, okay, we're down here in Sydney or Melbourne. If you want to talk to us, fly down, talk to us. We'll be here at this time. We'll have a meeting. And for people from Darwin, that's quite expensive. As everyone in Darwin knows, airfares up to Darwin and back are very expensive.
Yep.
So, and it's a 4-hour flight. So if you want to go to one meeting with someone in Sydney, it's a day of your time, at least, if not 2 days overnight. No one's expecting that now because no one can fly anywhere. So now's a really great time to book a meeting with someone to say, look, I was going to be in Sydney, but I'm not now. Why can't I catch up with you on Zoom? And I think the thing that I've noticed flying up and back to Darwin is that the guys in the NT are very used to using Zoom and other comms methods because we are dispersed in the Northern Territory. And so we're kind of used to doing Skype calls and Zoom calls and things like that routinely. And so this is a great opportunity to get out there and to sell yourself to people who are really stuck at home trying to do their jobs and are perfectly capable of taking a call, having a meeting. And so now's a good time to reach out to people and say, look, I'd like to talk to you about what we offer. This is how we're going to deliver it to you. Here's the product or service. Why don't we meet online? And instead of spending 2 days to have that 1-hour meeting, you spend 1 hour having that 1-hour meeting. The other thing is, a lot of online stores are booming. They're really booming. So, think about whether you can sell your service online. Think about whether you can sell it in a remote sense. Now's a good time to repair materials. So, if you're a consultant and you're stuck at home and you don't have a lot of work on, now's the time to build up your war chest of material. There's no reason why you can't work 8 hours a day at preparing flyers, packs about data and information.
Or even, pre-recorded sessions that they can sell on a continual basis.
Yes, and people are looking for online delivery of materials. So there's a great opportunity to work with people online or to prepare material online and also to sell that material, as you say. And the other thing is to think about innovative ways to sell to people. So, there's a lot of, if you say are offering a trade or some other skill and there's an incentive program set up by the government where they'll pay half the cost of a home improvement or something, offer to do all the work around that paperwork for the government. Often for people at home, older people, they see the paperwork that those government forms are and think it's too much.
Yeah.
So if you ever buy a solar panel, there's a whole bunch of paperwork that's done by the guy selling you the panel that gets a whole bunch of incentives back to him so that the cost you pay is a lot less than the true cost of the system. That's all invisible to you. So do the same thing for these guys. Offer a system where, hey, you can get this job done at half price and we'll do all the work for you around the paperwork. That'll be done by us. You just have to sign it. And then we'll put it into the system and you get half the cash back. Yeah. And they're really good systems where you're doing some more work for the customer, but you're getting jobs in the door. So I'd really try to think outside the square. Have a look at what other firms are doing. Cheap, do the same thing that they're doing. Offer to do things online. Run courses online for people. If big organisations have lots of people at home, they're not working as effectively as they should. They might be willing to spend some cash on training, online training, doing an online course after that training. That might be all things consultants can provide.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, any closing comments before we wrap up today?
I guess the sad thing is this is the worst business situation since the 1930s. But what that means is, you know, it's kind of like when you're playing a game or sport in the heat or something like that. You're really hurting because it's hot. Everyone else is hurt, is in the same position. Everyone else is hurt, is going to hurt as well. The people who survive are the firms that evolve. So really think about how you can evolve your business when things come out the other end, or right now, to grow and change and to become successful and to conserve cash. You know, I think the key issue right now is to protect your cash position the best you can, so that when things do change, and they will change, then you can then grow and prosper going forwards, because a lot of your competitors won't have survived, and there's actually going to be more work for you down the track. So really look for where you can change and you can evolve so that your business can be successful.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jeff. And I think it's an important time to be more collaborative now than it is to be competitive. Like you said, we are all in the same boat right now.
All in the same boat, and talk to everyone. Talk to your customers, talk to your suppliers, talk to your bank, and also to your staff. When times are uncertain, communication is key. So communicate more, not less.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff, for your wonderful insights as always today. For those that did miss out on the live session, these recordings of this week's webinars will be up on our website, www.darwininnovationhub.com.au. And if you have any questions, feel free to email them through to us via the website. And we will see you next time.